We all have personal stories of faith that we're called to live into and share, but each of our personal stories of faith, they're contained within a much larger story, which we're also called to live into and share. And this much larger story is the story of Scripture, and it's all about God's loving purpose. And this story also begins with God. And it's about a God who creates. And God creates this beautiful world, and we're called to love God and to serve God and to care for this beautiful creation and to love one another. On this gorgeous day, we really can claim that God created a beautiful world and that we're called to love God and to love each other and also to care for the plants and the animals, the rivers and the streams, and one another. And that's our calling, and that's what God has given us. But the first earth creatures, according to our story, wanted more. God said to them, you can eat of every fruit of every tree in creation, but you cannot eat from the fruit of the tree in the middle of the garden. And what that part of the story is about is that you can love me and serve me and care for creation and love one another, but you can't be God. You can't take control. And that's what the first earth creatures did. And the story says that because of that taking control, creation is now broken. And we all know the effects of this brokenness. We can look inside ourselves and we can see that there's greed and envy and anger and hatred inside of us. And we can see that our relationships are broken. And all we have to do is just go a few hundred feet away from here and we'll see that there are people who are homeless. They don't have a simple, decent place to spend the night. And we know that there are people in our community who don't have enough to eat. And we know that there are chemicals in this beautiful river beside us, and there are chemicals in the air that are beginning to destroy the planet. And we know what it means to live in a broken world. But God doesn't leave us in our brokenness, so the story continues. The story continues with God reaching us through a people. It begins with Abraham and Sarah, and then Rebekah and Isaac, and then Jacob and Joseph, and then into the people of Israel. And the promise is this: if you'll lean into me, if you'll trust me, if you'll go to a land that I'm going to show you, then I will bless you. And that blessing means you'll know what a relationship with me is all about. You'll live out of my love and you'll live full lives. And furthermore, the nations and the peoples around you will be blessed. They'll know through you what a deep relationship with me is all about and what loving purpose is all about. And as the story goes on, we realize that the people of Israel were like the first earth creatures, and they also wanted more. They weren't content with just simply being a blessing to bless the world, but they became like all the other nations, and they became as corrupt and unjust and as oppressive as the other nations. But the story doesn't end there. It goes on. God then takes on human flesh and blood and enters into the world through Jesus Christ. And through Jesus, God offers all of us forgiveness and hope. The forgiveness is all about that the ways in which we have missed the mark can be healed. And the hope is all about this life that we experience in Jesus is our real and lasting lives. Because the thing about Jesus is this: He's the one unbroken person in all of creation. And the promise is this, that in a relationship with Him, the brokenness inside of us is healed. The brokenness in our relationships is healed. And the brokenness in all of creation is healed. And the story doesn't end there. As we're part of a church, we're on this healing journey in which we're beginning to offer to others and our communities a sense of healing that happens in God. And so through the church, the world begins to change as we live our lives in this very different way. Racism is eradicated. There's no more poverty. There's no more homelessness. There's no more pollution. And so when people experience the church, people actually experience the way things were intended to be at the beginning of time, but also the way things will be when God completes and rescues and restores this broken creation. So that's a part of our story that we're called to live into and share, that we offer healing to the community and to people in our lives. And that's a part of what it means to be evangelists, to be on this healing journey with God for the healing of the world.